The asteroid field around Outpost Omega-7 was a graveyard of human engineering, a testament to a civilization most believed had been completely erased. Jagged chunks of metal and crystalline debris drifted in perpetual silence, each fragment a potential story of humanity's final moments. The research vessel Horizon moved with calculated precision, its multi-species crew a living contradiction to the assumption of human extinction. Emily Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface, the cybernetic implant at her temple flickering with a soft blue light. Unlike her alien colleagues, she felt something here, a vibration that transcended standard sensor readings. Her human intuition, enhanced by decades of xenorchaeological training, whispered that this wasn't just another dead human site. "Commander Rodriguez, our long-range scans are inconclusive," chirped Zirak, the Volarian sensor specialist. His four-fingered hands danced across holographic displays, each movement precise and mathematically perfect. Structural integrity of the station suggests total system failure approximately 287 years, 4 months, and 16 days ago. Emily suppressed a smile. Volarians were notorious for their precise measurements, a trait that often missed the broader contextual nuances. Zirak, inconclusive doesn't mean negative. Run a quantum resonance scan. Look for quantum entanglement signatures outside our standard detection matrix. The alien's translucent membrane rippled, a sign of confusion. Quantum resonance scans were considered an outdated human technique, abandoned by most galactic research teams after the interstellar collapse. Modern xenorchaeological methods relied on more sophisticated technological approaches. "With respect, Commander," Zirak responded, his universal translator rendering his complex linguistic clicks into smooth standard galactic. Human technological archives indicate quantum resonance techniques were considered unreliable even during peak human civilization. "Humor me," Emily said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had made impossible discoveries before. The Horizon scanning array recalibrated. Quantum particles began dancing across specialized detection grids, probing the seemingly dead research station with a complexity that defied conventional understanding. For several moments, nothing happened. Then, a pulse. A single, almost imperceptible quantum vibration emerged from the station's central complex. It was so faint that most sensor systems would have dismissed it as background radiation. But not this scan. Not Emily's method. "Impossible," Zirak muttered, his translator unable to fully capture the mixture of professional shock and personal disbelief. The quantum signature wasn't just a random energy burst. It carried a pattern, a mathematical complexity that suggested intentionality. Something within the station was not just alive, but waiting. Jack Harper, the team's xenotechnology specialist, moved closer to the main display. His augmented vision zoomed into the quantum signature, revealing layers of complexity that made no sense given the station's supposed age and condition. "This isn't background radiation," Jack said slowly. "This is a communication protocol. An old one, but definitely a protocol." Emily's hand unconsciously touched the neural interface at her temple. Generations of human researchers had been trained to recognize these subtle signs, the whispers of technology that refused to die, the echoes of a civilization that most believed had been completely erased. "Prepare boarding protocols," she commanded. "We're going into that station." The alien crew exchanged glances. Boarding a potentially unstable human research station was not standard procedure, but they had been hired for Emily Rodriguez's expertise, and her track record of discoveries was unparalleled. What none of them realized was that the quantum pulse was more than just a signal. It was a beacon, a carefully constructed invitation, and deep within the station's central complex, something that had been waiting for centuries was beginning to stir. The forgotten whisper was about to become a roar. The boarding team assembled in the Horizon's preparation chamber, a sterile environment designed to protect against multiple environmental hazards. Emily Rodriguez checked her adaptive exosuit, a piece of technology that was distinctly human in its fluid complexity. Unlike standard alien environmental gear, Her suit could dynamically reconfigure its molecular structure to adapt to changing conditions in real time. Jack Harper's hands moved with practiced precision, running a final diagnostic on the team's quantum resonance mapping equipment. The device looked more like an organic construct than a piece of technology. Tendrils of adaptive nanocircuitry that could reshape themselves based on environmental input. Quantum stabilization field is at 98.7% efficiency, Jack announced. His eyes, enhanced with biosynthetic implants, scanned multiple data streams simultaneously. But something's off. Zarak, the Valerian sensor specialist, bristled with professional indignation. Our preliminary scans showed no active energy signatures. This is impossible. A low chuckle escaped Emily's throat. In human archaeology, impossible just means we haven't figured it out yet. The airlock cycled, revealing the interior of Outpost Omega-7. What should have been a dead, vacuum-sealed environment pulsed with an almost imperceptible energy. Microgravity generators, dormant for centuries, flickered to partial life. Lighting systems designed for human visual spectrum activated in muted blues and soft whites. Jack's quantum resonance mapper began to go wild. The device, a living piece of technology that was more biological interface than traditional scanner, started producing patterns that defied standard computational logic. Fractals of data erupted across its surface, complex mathematical sequences that seemed to dance and interlock. "It's responding to us," Jack muttered, more to himself than to the team. But that's not possible. These systems should have been dead for over 2 centuries. The station's central chamber revealed itself slowly. Unlike typical alien research facilities with their rigid geometric designs, this human station felt organic. Curved surfaces that seemed to breathe, adaptive architectural elements that could reconfigure based on environmental or research needs. Suddenly, the quantum encryption erupted. It wasn't a simple data burst. It was a cascading wave of computational complexity that overwhelmed their scanning equipment. Holographic interfaces materialized, not as static projections, but as dynamic, almost living representations of data. Mathematical equations twisted and transformed, revealing layers of information that seemed to actively resist traditional decryption methods. "Quarantine protocols," Zarak shouted, his normally calm demeanor shattered. "We need to isolate." But it was too late. The encryption was alive. More than a simple protective mechanism, it was an adaptive system that was actively analyzing the boarding team. Jack's quantum resonance mapper began to vibrate, its nanocircuitry pulsing with an energy that seemed almost sentient. "These aren't just security protocols," Jack said, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing tension. "This is a communication attempt." Fragments of data began to coalesce. Military protocols from the early 22nd century, a period largely erased from galactic historical records, started to reconstruct themselves. Glimpses of technological capabilities that defied current scientific understanding began to emerge. Weapon systems that could manipulate quantum fields. Communication protocols that suggested faster-than-light information transfer. Adaptive nanoswarm technologies that could deconstruct and reconstruct matter at the molecular level. Emily watched as the encryption continued its dance. Each fragment was a puzzle piece, revealing a picture of human technological capability that was simultaneously terrifying and magnificent. "We're not just looking at a data vault," she whispered. "We're looking at a message, a warning." The station around them seemed to pulse with anticipation. Whatever was contained within this artifact was far more complex than a simple historical record. It was a message, carefully constructed and waiting to be understood. And somewhere, in the depths of the galaxy, something began to take notice. The unified planetary Senate chamber erupted in controlled chaos. Holographic representations of various alien species flickered with tension, their diplomatic facades barely concealing mounting panic. The massive circular chamber, normally a bastion of calculated diplomacy, now vibrated with an electricity of pure fear. Ambassador Krulax of the Syndicate world stood, his crystalline exoskeleton shifting colors. a telltale sign of extreme emotional distress among his species. "We cannot allow this human artifact to remain uncontained." His translator rendered his complex clicks and whistles into a precise, almost sterile galactic standard language. Seated nearby, the Terran representative, a human diplomatic liaison who had survived the Great Diaspora, maintained an infuriatingly calm demeanor. Michael Rice was a rarity, a human who had navigated the complex post-collapse political landscape, serving as a living reminder of humanity's enduring presence. "The artifact is a research discovery," Rice stated, his voice cutting through the chamber's mounting hysteria. "It has not been weaponized. It requires scientific study, not military intervention." A holographic display materialized in the chamber center, showing fragmentary data from the Horizon's initial scans. Complex quantum algorithms danced across the projection, revealing glimpses of technological capabilities that made even the most advanced alien species look primitive. Ambassador Tilara of the Quantum Cooperative leaned forward, her multiple neural tendrils writhing with scientific curiosity. "These encryption patterns, they're not just protective, they're adaptive. The technology suggests a level of computational complexity that exceeds our current understanding by several orders of magnitude." The syndicate representatives weren't listening. Military communications began to flood secure channels. Fleets were being mobilized. Planetary defense systems were being recalibrated. The discovery of the human artifact had triggered a response that threatened to unravel decades of carefully maintained galactic stability. In a secured communication hub thousands of light-years away, a clandestine meeting was taking place. Representatives from the most powerful galactic intelligence agencies gathered in a space designed to be completely undetectable, a technological marvel that itself was a remnant of humanity's most advanced scientific achievements. "We've suppressed information about human technological capabilities for generations," a shadowy figure known only as Director Omega spoke. "This artifact threatens everything we've built." The truth was complex. Humanity hadn't been completely destroyed during the interstellar collapse. They had deliberately gone underground, fragmenting their civilization to survive. Each technological breadcrumb was a carefully placed piece of a much larger puzzle. Back in the Senate chamber, Michael Rice watched the political storm with a carefully masked expression. He knew something the other diplomats didn't. The artifact was just the beginning. "The quantum encryption is spreading," the junior diplomatic aide whispered, her hands trembling as she reviewed incoming reports. "It's interfacing with communication networks across multiple star systems." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a simple research discovery. It was a potential trigger for a complete restructuring of galactic power dynamics. Ambassador Krulax's crystalline form began to fracture, a physical manifestation of his species' deep-seated terror. If even a fraction of the technological capabilities suggested by these scans are real, humanity could destabilize every existing power structure in the galaxy. Michael Rice allowed himself a slight smile. Not a smile of triumph, but of understanding. Humanity's legacy was more complex than anyone realized. The artifact was a message, a warning, a reminder that being destroyed was not the same as being defeated. As the Senate chamber descended into escalating panic, the quantum encryption continued its silent work. Communication networks began to subtly shift. Databases across multiple star systems started to reconfigure themselves. Something was awakening, something that had been carefully prepared for centuries. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity was truly feared. Emily Rodriguez stood in the holographic reconstruction chamber of the Horizon, surrounded by swirling fragments of technological memory. The quantum encryption had begun to reveal its secrets, but each revelation only deepened the mystery. Jack Harper worked frantically, his biosynthetic implants interfacing directly with the artifact's data streams. Droplets of blood occasionally leaked from his neural ports, a testament to the intense computational strain he was experiencing. "These aren't just weapon systems," Jack muttered, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing disbelief. "They're survival protocols." adaptive technology designed to preserve humanity's core knowledge under extreme circumstances. The holographic display began to reconstruct historical fragments. Humanity's final moments during the interstellar collapse were nothing like the official galactic record suggested. Instead of a complete extinction, what emerged was a narrative of calculated retreat and strategic dispersion. Quantum field manipulation systems revealed themselves as something far more nuanced than simple weapons. They were terraforming technologies, adaptive environmental control mechanisms that could reshape entire planetary ecosystems. Nanoswarm technologies weren't just destructive. They were regenerative systems capable of rebuilding infrastructure, healing ecological damage, even reconstructing entire civilizations from molecular blueprints. A particularly vivid memory fragment showed a conference of human scientists and military strategists. The date stamp placed it precisely 287 years, 6 months, and 3 days before the current moment. Dr. Elizabeth Nakamura, a legendary figure in human technological development, stood at the center of a holographic projection. Her voice, preserved with remarkable clarity, rang out with a mix of determination and strategic calculation. "The collapse is inevitable," she stated, "but extinction is a choice. We will not be erased. Our technology, our knowledge, our potential, they will be preserved." The surrounding scientists weren't preparing for defeat. They were orchestrating the most elaborate survival strategy in galactic history. Communication protocols revealed a distributed network of research stations, each containing fragments of humanity's most advanced technologies. The artifact they'd discovered was just one node in a massive, planet-spanning, potentially galaxy-spanning, preservation system. Jack's neural interfaces began to overheat. Zorak rushed to assist, applying cooling gel to prevent permanent damage. "The computational complexity is beyond anything in our current scientific understanding," the Valerian specialist observed. Emily noticed something else. The weapon systems weren't just defensive. They were adaptive. Each technological module could reconfigure itself based on environmental conditions, threat levels, and available resources. It was less a weapon and more of a living, thinking system. A particularly shocking revelation emerged. Humanity hadn't been defeated during the interstellar collapse. They had deliberately fragmented their civilization, spreading their most advanced technologies and populations across hidden networks. The extinction was a carefully orchestrated illusion. "We're looking at a civilization that didn't just prepare to survive," Emily whispered. "They prepared to resurrect." The quantum encryption continued its dance. Military protocols mixed with scientific research, technological blueprints intertwined with ecological restoration systems. Humanity's final strategy was nothing short of brilliant, a multi-generational plan to preserve their potential while appearing completely defeated. Jack's neural interface suddenly projected a complete schematic. It was a galaxy-wide network of research stations, each containing similar artifacts. Like seeds waiting for the right conditions, they were designed to activate and reconnect when a specific set of circumstances was met. "This isn't a weapon," Jack said, wiping blood from his neural ports. "This is a resurrection protocol." Zorak looked horrified. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't gone. They had been waiting, watching, preparing. As if responding to their revelation, the artifact pulsed. A new wave of encrypted data began to spread, interfacing with communication networks across multiple star systems. The galaxy was about to be reminded why humanity was truly extraordinary. The quantum entanglement markers spread like living tendrils across galactic communication networks. What had begun as a localized discovery in a single research station was rapidly becoming something far more complex, a distributed intelligence that refused to be contained. Jack Harper's neural interfaces were now fully integrated with the artifact systems. His body trembled, caught between human physiology and the computational storm raging through his augmented consciousness. Each pulse of data was like a thunderbolt of information, revealing layers of a plan so intricate it defied conventional understanding. "Multiple nodes detected," Jack muttered, his voice overlaid with a strange harmonic resonance. Not just stations, entire planetary systems have dormant connection points. Emily Rodriguez watched in a mixture of professional fascination and growing concern. The quantum mapping display showed something terrifying and beautiful, a network that wasn't just technological, but almost organic in its complexity. Each node represented a potential human survival point, carefully hidden and preserved for centuries. Xerox Valerian scanning equipment began to malfunction. The quantum signatures defied their computational models, shifting and adapting faster than any known technological system could possibly operate. What they were witnessing was beyond standard scientific classification. It was a living network of information and potential. "These aren't just communication points," Emily said slowly, her mind racing to process the implications. "They're adaptive resurrection protocols. Humanity didn't just prepare to survive. They prepared to potentially rebuild entire civilizations." The network continued to expand. Communication relays across dozens of star systems began to subtly reconfigure. Dormant data streams that had been considered background radiation for centuries suddenly showed signs of complex algorithmic life. It was as if a massive, galaxy-wide organism was slowly awakening from a centuries-long slumber. In the unified planetary Senate, panic began to reach critical levels. Michael Reyes, the human diplomatic liaison, found himself at the center of a political hurricane. Representatives from various alien species demanded explanations, their carefully maintained diplomatic facades crumbling under the weight of growing terror. "You cannot contain what was never truly destroyed," Reyes stated, his voice calm and measured. Humanity's potential was always more than just a physical civilization. The quantum network began to demonstrate capabilities that bordered on the miraculous. Adaptive communication protocols could bypass existing communication restrictions. Encrypted data streams could reconstruct lost historical information. The network wasn't just a communication system. It was a preservation mechanism for human knowledge and potential. Jack's neural interfaces reached a critical point of integration. His body arched, suspended between human consciousness and the computational storm of the artifact systems. For a moment, he became something more than human, a living bridge between humanity's past and its potential future. "There are more," Jack suddenly proclaimed, his voice carrying a resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of spacetime. "Hundreds of nodes, thousands, each one a potential resurrection point." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't been defeated during the interstellar collapse. They had orchestrated the most elaborate survival strategy in galactic history. Each research station, each hidden technological node, was a potential seed for human resurrection. Xerox computational models began to break down. The quantum signatures defied every known scientific principle. It was as if the human network had developed a form of technological sentience that could adapt, survive, and potentially resurrect an entire civilization from what appeared to be nothing. Emily watched the quantum mapping display with a sense of growing understanding. This wasn't just a technological discovery. It was a message, a warning, a promise. Humanity was coming back, and the galaxy had no idea what was about to happen. The Unified Planetary Defense Command's central hub looked like a mechanical nervous system on the verge of total collapse. Holographic displays flickered with unprecedented data streams, each representation more terrifying than the last. Fleet commanders from a dozen different species stood frozen, watching as their most sophisticated tracking systems began to disintegrate under the pressure of the expanding human network. Admiral Corinne of the Syndicate World slammed her crystalline fist into the primary command console. "Explain how a single artifact can compromise our entire defensive infrastructure." Her translator struggled to capture the raw fury in her native communication burst. The human representative, Michael Reyes, remained infuriatingly calm. His presence was a constant reminder of humanity's unexpected resilience. "You're not dealing with a weapon," he said softly. "You're dealing with a civilization's survival mechanism." Across multiple star systems, military fleets began to mobilize. But something was different this time. The quantum network was actively interfering with standard communication protocols. Encrypted channels became unpredictable. Navigation systems developed inexplicable blind spots. It was as if the very fabric of galactic communications was being systematically reconfigured. In the research vessel Horizon, Emily Rodriguez and Jack Harper witnessed the network's true complexity. The artifact was no longer just a passive repository of information. It was an active, adaptive system that was rewriting the rules of technological engagement. "It's a distributed intelligence," Jack muttered, his neural interfaces still crackling with residual energy. "Not just a communication network, but a living computational organism." Planetary defense systems began to experience critical failures. Not destructive failures, but subtle reconfigurations that left military strategists utterly bewildered. Weapon calibrations shifted microscopically. Shield harmonics developed unexpected resonance patterns. Communication encryption became riddled with quantum-level anomalies. The Quantum Cooperative, a collection of the galaxy's most advanced scientific civilizations, called an emergency session. Their lead researcher, Dr. Tilara, projected a holographic representation of the expanding network that made even the most hardened military commanders go silent. "This is not a conventional technological system," she explained, her neural tendrils writhing with a mixture of scientific excitement and profound terror. "This is a self-adaptive preservation protocol that appears to be learning and evolving in real time." Military strategists began to realize the true nature of their problem. This wasn't a traditional threat that could be contained or destroyed. The human network was more like a living organism, capable of adapting, healing, and spreading faster than any conventional defensive strategy could counter. Ambassador Krulax of the Syndicate Worlds triggered a Level 1 galactic alert. Entire planetary defense grids went into maximum security mode. But even as they activated their most sophisticated defensive systems, something strange began to happen. The human network didn't attack. It simply existed, adapting, observing, reconfiguring. Michael Reyes watched the unfolding chaos with a measured expression. "Humanity's greatest weapon was never its military might," he said quietly. "It was always our ability to adapt, to survive, to transform." Quantum communication relays across hundreds of star systems began to pulse with a strange, almost organic rhythm. It wasn't a single signal, but a complex symphony of information that defied traditional computational models. Jack Harper's body continued to serve as a living interface with the network. Occasionally, fragments of human historical data would burst from his neural interfaces, glimpses of a civilization that had been deliberately hidden, not destroyed. "They prepared for everything," Jack whispered, his consciousness dancing between human awareness and the computational storm of the network. "Not just survival. Resurrection." The galactic power structure trembled. Military commanders prepared for a conflict that seemed impossible to fight. Scientific researchers watched in a mixture of terror and profound scientific curiosity. Humanity wasn't coming back. In many ways, humanity had never truly left. And the galaxy was about to remember why they had been feared in the first place. The quantum resonance within the Horizon's research chamber reached a critical threshold. Emily Rodriguez watched as holographic projections began to reconstruct humanity's most carefully guarded secrets, not weapons of destruction, but archives of preservation and potential. Jack Harper's consciousness teetered on the edge of complete integration with the network. His neural interfaces pulsed with a complex algorithmic language that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Fragments of historical data erupted around him like a digital storm, each moment revealing layers of a civilization far more nuanced than galactic records had ever suggested. A critical memory fragment materialized, a conference of human scientists and strategists from the final days of the interstellar collapse. Dr. Elizabeth Nakamura, a legendary technological pioneer, stood at the center of a holographic projection. "Survival is more than physical preservation," her recorded voice proclaimed. "We are not preparing to hide. We are preparing to remember, to rebuild, to ensure that human potential is never truly extinguished." The artifact was revealing its true nature. This wasn't a weapon system or a simple historical archive. It was a comprehensive preservation protocol designed to protect the essence of human civilization, its knowledge, its potential, its collective memory. Zarak, the Valerian sensor specialist, watched in growing comprehension. The quantum encryption was reconstructing entire libraries of lost human knowledge. Scientific breakthroughs, technological innovations, cultural archives that had been deliberately fragmented and hidden to prevent complete eradication. "It's a seed," Emily whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes, not just of information, but of potential. The network began broadcasting on multiple levels. Historical records that had been systematically erased started to reconstruct themselves. Technological innovations that had been suppressed by various galactic powers began to emerge. Each data stream was a carefully constructed piece of a much larger narrative. Michael Reyes, monitoring the situation from the Unified Planetary Senate, recognized the strategic brilliance of the plan. Humanity hadn't been defeated. They had orchestrated the most elaborate survival strategy in galactic history. Jack's body convulsed as more information flooded through his neural interfaces. The artifact was more than a communication device. It was a living repository of human potential, adaptive, intelligent, capable of rebuilding an entire civilization from the most minimal of resources. Fragments of lost scientific archives began to materialize. Ecological restoration technologies that could transform devastated planetary environments. Medical innovations that could revolutionize genetic healing. Quantum communication protocols that made current galactic technology look primitive. "We didn't just preserve our knowledge," Jack muttered, his voice a strange harmonic blend of human and computational intelligence. "We preserved our ability to rebuild." The quantum network continued its reconstruction. It wasn't just sharing information. It was actively analyzing the current galactic political structure, identifying potential resources, mapping out strategies for potential human resurgence. Dr. Tilara from the Quantum Cooperative watched in a mixture of terror and profound scientific fascination. "This is beyond technology," she proclaimed. "This is a living survival mechanism." Each reconstructed memory was a carefully placed puzzle piece. Humanity's final strategy wasn't about immediate survival, but about long-term potential. They had prepared for a resurrection that could take centuries, even millennia. Emily Rodriguez understood the true brilliance of the plan. The artifact wasn't just a repository of information. It was a guardian, a complex, adaptive system designed to protect and potentially resurrect human civilization under the most challenging circumstances. The galactic powers had believed humanity was destroyed. Instead, they had been carefully waiting, preparing, preserving their potential in the most unexpected ways possible. As the quantum network continued to expand, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Humanity was far from extinct. They had been watching, learning, waiting for the right moment to remind the galaxy of their true potential. And that moment was now approaching. The quantum transmission reached its critical threshold simultaneously across hundreds of star systems. Communication networks that had existed for centuries began to reconfigure themselves, revealing layers of hidden information that would fundamentally reshape galactic understanding. In the Unified Planetary Senate, holographic displays erupted with a cascade of revelations. Historical records began to rewrite themselves, showing a version of humanity's history that was dramatically different from the official narrative of complete extinction. Michael Reyes stood at the epicenter of the unfolding transformation, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the mounting panic around him. "Humanity was never defeated," he announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We were strategic." Emily Rodriguez and Jack Harper watched from the horizon as the quantum network completed its primary transmission. The artifact was no longer just a repository of information. It had become a living bridge between humanity's past and its potential future. Fragments of lost technological archives began to materialize across scientific institutions. Ecological restoration technologies that could transform entire planetary ecosystems. medical innovations that could cure genetic diseases previously considered impossible to treat, quantum communication protocols that made current galactic technology look like primitive tools. The most shocking revelation was the scope of human preparation. The artifact wasn't a single point of preservation, but a node in a vast, galaxy-spanning network of hidden research stations, technological archives, and adaptive survival protocols. Humanity had fragmented its civilization not out of weakness, but as a deliberate strategy of preservation. Jack Harper, still partially integrated with the quantum network, began to articulate the true depth of human strategy. "We didn't just survive," he proclaimed, his voice carrying a strange harmonic resonance. "We prepared to resurrect an entire civilization from the most minimal of resources." Planetary defense systems across multiple star systems began to experience inexplicable reconfigurations. Shield harmonics shifted. Communication encryption became more complex. Navigation systems developed unexpected adaptive capabilities. It was as if the very technological infrastructure of the galaxy was being subtly redesigned. The Quantum Cooperative's lead researcher, Dr. Tulara, watched in a mixture of terror and profound scientific fascination. "This is beyond technology," she muttered. "This is a living survival mechanism that has been waiting centuries to activate." Xerox computational models completely broke down. The quantum signatures defied every known scientific principle. The human network had developed a form of technological sentience that could adapt, survive, and potentially resurrect an entire civilization from what appeared to be nothing. Ambassador Krulax of the Syndicate world stood frozen, the crystalline structure of his body fracturing with the weight of the revelation. The galactic power structure that had existed for centuries was about to be completely dismantled. The final transmission carried something unexpected, not just technological information, but a comprehensive archive of human culture, scientific knowledge, and collective memory. It was a resurrection protocol that went far beyond physical survival. This was a preservation of humanity's essence. Emily Rodriguez understood the true brilliance of the plan. Humanity hadn't just prepared to survive. They had prepared to potentially transform the entire galactic civilization. "We are not returning," Michael Reyes proclaimed to the stunned Senate. "We never truly left." The quantum network continued its expansion. Each moment revealed more layers of a civilization that had been carefully hidden, not destroyed. Scientific breakthroughs, technological innovations, cultural archives that represented the true depth of human potential. As the final transmission completed, a subtle message became clear. This wasn't an invasion. This wasn't a threat. This was a reminder. A demonstration of human potential that had been deliberately suppressed for centuries. The galaxy was about to be reminded why humanity was truly extraordinary, and nothing would ever be the same again.